began to devour the pulp. Until Kueni had been given to him, Amrith had not realized how beautiful mynahs were. Here in Colombo, they were common as crows, and he had not paid them the slightest attention. Being this close to one, however, had made him see how exquisite they were. Their silky black heads, their warm brown plumage, the golden yellow of their throats, upper breasts, bills, and feet, the snowy white tips of their tails. Voices in the side garden below distracted Amrith from his contemplation. Auntie Bundle and her old ayah, Jane Nona, were discussing the damage caused to the living room roof by the storm last night. Some of the tiles had blown away, leaving a gaping hole. Roofers were very busy during the monsoon period, and the women were worried that if the hole was not repaired in time, they would have to cancel the big birthday party for Auntie Bundle's daughters, which was to take place next month. The women had finished their conversation, and Auntie Bundle started up the stairs that led to the terrace. As her footsteps drew near, a black mood which Amrith had managed to hold at bay swept over him like a wave, carrying him out to a darkness he did not want to face. "Amrith?" Auntie Bundle stood on the top step, looking towards him in the aviary. Her plump face, usually merry, was sober and stark without any makeup, and her eyes, which always sparkled with laughter, were dull and red from crying. Instead of her regular bright sarong and crisp lace blouse, she wore the plain white sari of mourning. The jewel peacock that hung from a chain around her waist was gone, as were her gold bangles. The only jewelry she wore was her gold cross on a chain. Amrith felt a sharp anger take hold as he looked at her through the mesh. Why did she insist on dressing in clothes of mourning every year on this day? It had been 8 years since his mother's death, and yet from Auntie Bundle's clothes one would think it was the day of the funeral itself. He wanted to yell that it was all too ridiculous, this remembering, this anniversary. He was sick of it, sick of the whole thing. Today was the first day of his holidays. It was unfair, utterly unfair, that he had to get up so early and go to mass and then the graveyard. He should have been allowed to sleep in. "Son," Auntie Bundle said, taking a step forward. "It's time to go." Yes, Auntie," he replied politely. "I'll come in a moment." She nodded and went back down the terrace steps. The moment she was gone, Amrith leaned against the mesh and closed his eyes. He thought of how on the first anniversary of his mother's death he had rebelled against going to church in the graveyard. He wished that he was 7 again and not 14, that he could once again throw a tantrum and refuse to go. On that first anniversary, he had lain on the floor and screamed when Auntie Bundle tried to make him put on his church clothes. Finally, her husband, Uncle Lucky, had intervened. Though Amrith, by then, loved and trusted Uncle Lucky more than anyone else in the world, he was still afraid of him. Uncle Lucky would not let him get away with anything. And so, while Uncle Lucky had stood over him sternly, he had hiccuped and sobbed, but got dressed. When he was done, Uncle Lucky had sat on the edge of the bed and made Amrith stand between his thighs while he combed his hair. As he did so, he had spoken to him gravely, telling Amrith he must never forget his mother, that the past was very important, as from time to time we could call on it to help us. And if we did not know our past, then we could not call on it. Kueni had sated herself on Papaw, and she was perched on a swing, looking at Amrith, her head to one side. His anger flowed towards her. "You're useless," he said softly, his eyes narrowed. "I should just release you into the garden and get another mynah that will talk." The car was starting up downstairs in the garage. Amrith left the aviary, closing the door behind him and checking the lock twice. The aviary was a gift from Auntie Bundle for Amrith's 13th birthday last year. Her close friend and colleague, the famous architect Lucien Lindemullige, had a giant aviary in his back garden. He was almost as passionate about his birds as he was about his buildings. Amrith, from the time he was little, would spend hours in the old man's aviary. Auntie Bundle consulted Lucien Lindemullige on the building of the aviary. She didn't